This is Lynn Fraser. I'm with the Kiloby Center for Recovery for the Radical Recovery Summit. And I'm here today with Kyle Secor. And he's going to talk about awareness and how that works around recovery and a blip. Kyle, do you want to just introduce yourself, please?
Hi, thanks, Lynn. I'm Kyle Secor, and I'm here to talk about recovery and blips. Sometimes you just don't know what's going to pop up
Yes.
and
Yeah.
going to surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, something seems like a pretty good idea to
Right.
go that way. Instead of
Yeah.
going the way that you've been going, let's go that way.
Right.
And what I realize is in some senses that's a good thing because you're moving into discomfort and being comfort. But if you are an addict or if you're in recovery and you go, oh, let's look over here at I now have 40 marijuana dispensaries that have opened in the neighborhood. Let's just drive
Right.
by. When you start doing that, then you start getting into sticky territory.
Right.
And however long time that one person may have can sometimes lead to going, you know what, not today. Today, it's that. And you do that. And so for me, how I deal with these, like a little blip that appears on your screen, or is that I start my day. Like I have a morning routine that I do. I know a lot of people have morning routines and they can go, oh yeah, and I do this and I drink the apple cider and all of these people. And I remember one time putting out on Facebook saying, hey, I've got this morning routine. What does everyone else do? And man, I got so many different things. But for me, if I start off by doing something slightly physical, even doing some push-ups just to get my body, get a sense of awareness of my body and where I'm at physically, and then sit down and do a little bit of reading. For me, that's just a great way to kind of start the day and to kind of, a lot of people say, I'm going to own the morning. I don't know if that happens, but certainly if I'm reaching out to someone first thing in the morning, or if I'm sitting in quietude for 10, 15 minutes, if I've written something down, if I've gotten up and I've done something physical, to me it's always just, okay, let's get a sense of where I'm at today. And that to me has been the thing that has stayed with me no matter what. And this last, I'll call it a blip, that I had, it was always there. I was doing every single morning. And I think that that's what made things shorter and less caustic and less, and because my sense is that was always going to be the bottom line for me. And then that was going to be kind of my touchstone. And then, it's like, you put enough medicine on the acne and the acne will clear up, and it seems to have cleared up for a bit. So
Mm-hmm.
that's whenever I talk to anyone who's thinking about recovery, or they're sober and they've been sober for a while, a lot of times it's just the strangest thing is that people will say, oh, I don't, but they'll say, what do you do? And I go, well, I do this, this, and this. And they go, oh, boy, I really tried that, but I don't, I can't do that. Or I've tried that, I can't do that. But I go to meetings every single day. And I go, okay, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think just, and I know that you have like a wide range of people on your conference. And I've also attended some other online conferences where it's not just one thing. Everyone's got their way of putting something together.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, if I want to feel bad about myself, which I don't want to do too often, but if I want to, I'll go, well, I should go to this. I should do that. I really should, because but what I realize I'm doing all along is I'm doing something that I've been doing for 20 some odd years very consistently, no matter what. And that has somehow worked. And sometimes there's lows and sometimes there's highs and sometimes it's just this. But I always have a pretty simple practice.
That's so valuable to
Yeah,
have that time every day where you check in. And like you said, you're just starting the day with awareness.
yeah, yeah,
What's actually going on in my body, my breath, my
yeah.
mind.
And then it makes it easier for me throughout the day to check back in. If I didn't start, and there's been days obviously where I haven't started that way, but it doesn't strike me as, oh, I missed my this, that, or the other. I missed that. Oh, this day is going to go crappy or whatever, because I know that the next day I'm going to pick it up again. And I know that during the day I'm checking in with myself.
Right.
Instead of getting down on myself, I'm checking in with myself, or I'm checking in with, any number of podcasts or speakers or something, and I'll periodically go, oh, let me just hear what they've got to say. And I always hear something, and it always creates space in my mind and gives me a sense of an awareness that, maybe I had something I hadn't been in my awareness before, but now is there. So, yeah.
Right. So you have this years of consistent practice and,
Mm-hmm.
the ups, the downs, the neutral, all of that.
Right.
So what was different about it when you were experiencing that blip? What were the different kinds of thoughts? Were you shaming yourself? Was that pretty?
Well, the initial thing was this: I need some relief.
Mm-hmm.
I just need some relief. I'm in physical pain. There's a lot of stuff going on. And not even relief. I just need to be numb.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be numb. And I was very clear when I first had my little edible. I was very clear before I had it. I went, okay. And I talked to myself. I said, you want to be numb? Yep, I want to be numb. That's exactly what I want to be. Let's see what happens. And that's exactly what happened. And it worked until it didn't work anymore. And then I realized it wasn't numbness that I was looking for in the first place. So, but every morning when I got up and I did my practices, the longer it went on, what I found is more guilt came in the longer it went on. Initially, it was just, oh, this is working great. I'm not feeling that stuff that I was feeling in my body, which is, I know that's what a lot of people take these things for, is because they got a lot of physical pain, and that worked great. But all it was doing was numbing something that when I didn't take it, it was back again. It was not
Right.
So going back into the practices that I had, I noticed that when guilt started coming up, and I would notice the guilt go, oh, there it was. It's there. It wasn't there 2 weeks ago. It hasn't been there for 2 weeks. Now it's here. What's going on? And again, this is just for me. It's, someone said to me, you dodged a bullet. You didn't go any further than what you did, and you dodged a bullet. And I could say, yeah, that's true. I did. And I would never say to anyone, yeah, do what I did. It was just try it out. But to me, since I guess I'm interested in how things affect me, so I was interested in what was going on and why there wasn't guilt, and then why there was guilt, and why things were happening the way that they were happening, other than just going back to a book that was telling me, this is what's going on. You better talk to this, that, and the other person. And instead, just doing it for myself and talking to people periodically that I trusted. And then finally, it just it had run its course in a shortish amount of time, which I'm really happy about. And then what's interesting is then, I started going back to some meetings, and then I could feel this thing that I was now on the path to recovery again. And along with that path to recovery, it almost felt like, and I'm an actor, so here we go. In a way, it felt like you're on the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. You've now gotten back on your horse. You're going. You now have a clear idea of what this battle is about, and you're going towards some sense of victory in a way. And within a month, after that happened, I started, because I recommitted myself to something, to my craft of acting. I recommitted myself to doing the things that I had been disappointed about, and immediately started getting work, which was interesting to me because I hadn't been working for about a year, that's kind of painful.
It is.
So yeah, um, so to me, it's been all just kind of a part of the same journey. Even today, I thought, well, you know what? I don't feel much different than now than I did really before. There's still some of the same issues are up, but I just feel like something else got into me that where I just feel clear about some things because of going through that. So that is really, that's the plus of it all. The negative of it is that I made promises to myself. I made promises to myself, I made promises to my friends, to my family, and all those promises got broken.
Right, right.
And then I go, oh, well, and then I go, well, you know what? If I want to, I can make more promises. If I want to, I can make more promises and see how that goes. So that's where I am right now. And and what I've started doing also is challenging myself much more, challenging myself to, because sometimes when I was sober, I started getting complacent about stuff. I started getting comfortable. I started only putting out as much as I could put out, as much as my energy allowed, as much as this, that, or the other, instead of going, oh, let's put in just let's just put in, as if there's free will, let's put in 5% more. Let's put in 10% more. Let's see what happens when you do that. And that's, and I tell you, there's much more. Someone said, we only work with 40% of our capacity. We only work with 40%. If you take that up to 60%, what more are you capable of? And so I'm kind of seeing what it is that I'm capable of right now, because I feel like I've gotten second, third, and fourth chances. And another thing, I guess, another thing that's interesting is that people said, well, you had 23 years. You lost that 23 years. And I go, I don't even understand that concept.
Right. Yeah.
I don't even get it. I mean, yeah. I get it from almost like a liturgical point of view, but it's not a concept that makes any sense to me anymore right now. So,
yeah. So you still have all the recovery, everything you learned, all of those years, they didn't go anywhere. And then you had a different experience, and then you learned something from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you look back on what you've learned from that, I mean, I know that you've been talking about that, but what would you say are the couple of highlights? Like, you seem to have more energy for things, you've re-engaged in a different way.
Yeah. More energy, re-engaged, saw the fallacy of some of the commitments that I had made, that I probably didn't want to make in the first place. And also saw how quickly, what it seems like, how quickly something can kind of how you can just go, okay, that. But really that there was a road traveled to that particular instant. If I put the pieces together, there was a road that was traveled to there, and there was things that added up. But that thing happened in that instant. And when it seemed like a decision was made to go, okay, you're done now, then that happened in that instant. And I guess I hear this a lot, and a lot of times it didn't make sense to me. Now it just makes more sense to me, is that I wasn't making any of those decisions. They were just happening. And what was happening, and it seemed like I made choices which I don't want to take any, like, I don't have any responsibility or anything like that, but there's something now that makes so much sense in that. that I'm not making a lot of the choices that are happening in my life. They're just happening. And there's something about what feels like a commitment to life, of living and in the flow of life and being more engaged in life and with others in my life. And something right now about that feels incredibly good. And it has something to do with what happened over the summer.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any wisdom in that. Sometimes I think, gosh, I've heard that from so many different people when they go through this. I'm just living out a cliche right now. But now it's something that I did that's been a part of this action figure, as Paul Hederman says.
Right. Right.
So yeah. So I got to experience that.
So you had at the beginning, you talked about you wanted relief from physical pain.
Seemed like it was relief. What I wanted to numb stuff. I didn't want to experience stuff.
Right. And so then you realized that wasn't what you were looking for. You didn't actually want to be numb.
Yeah.
What was that realization like?
I think, I didn't want to deal with, I didn't want to come up with the answers I didn't want to deal with the problems that were happening. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have any answers. And some of them seemed unanswerable. There was no answers to it. It was just, they would have to unfold. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my helplessness and hopelessness and sense of, oh gosh, not being able to manage stuff.
Right.
That was painful. That was painful. And it seemed, and you know what, the numbing out part, that worked so good. It was great. I hate painting, and I had to paint a room in our house. And I painted that thing, and I had a ball. And I look at it, and no one would go in that room and go, boy, that guy was high. No. They would go in the room and go, oh, that's a nice room. And I had a great time doing it. So there were things about it that I would never have had the joy painting that room that at that particular point that I had when I did it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if, but finally it's just taking drugs. That's what it is. And that experience is going to come and go. And it's going to be just yet another coming and going experience.
Right.
And it's just another thing rising up in consciousness. Mm-hmm. And you think that's going to be an answer. And even that's not an answer. So, gosh, I don't have a lot of answers right now. There's something though about having more energy, which makes it, and getting through that makes living life right now really exciting, and not in a scattered way, but in just a more engaged way, having the energy to be engaged.
Right. Yeah. So there's some kind of an opening up, some space opened up for something new.
Oh yeah. A lot of space. And to, like I went a couple of years ago, I decided that I needed to go back to acting class because I'd forgotten how to act, it felt like. Uh-huh. And the wonderful thing about going back to an acting class when you're my age is that you're usually the oldest person in the acting class. So it's a bunch of young kids with a lot of ideas and a lot of things they want to do, and they're ready to go. And what I noticed also is that when I was in class, I was starting to have definite judgments about myself and about the other people.
Oh, okay.
And that was another thing that arose. Now, when it was over with, there was this opening up to their ideas, to because we write a lot in this class. We write and we act things out, and we make films, and we do all sorts of things. So there was a real thing of like, how can I help? Where do you need me? Can I be of service? And, you know, and all of that. So there was that was a nice feeling as well. Because the concept of service has always been one that I've been, you know, like I remember when I was going to meetings, I was, you know, I remember I led like I had a 6-month commitment to lead a meeting, and I had a 6-month commitment here and there and there. What I saw is that I'm being of service in any given instant.
Mm-hmm.
With my family, with my daughters, with people that I come in contact with, if someone's drinking and I'm not drinking, or if someone asks me about, you know. So I've been noticing that I've been being of service for many hours during the day. And it just doesn't show up as me being at a meeting or me going on a, you know, on a drunk call or something like that. Yeah. Or doing, you know, being a part of this that you're doing. I love that you're doing this. This is so cool.
It is so cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's it really expands the, you know, the knowledge base for people that are, you know, interested in hearing about what recovery is about. It's, you know, that's why you're doing it. I'm telling you.
No, that's amazing though, because, you know, it's real people, and people have such different approaches to recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's radical recovery, we're looking at much more than abstinence. And, you know, I don't look at this blip of yours as a relapse. It's just another part of recovery, really.
Yeah.
And part of your life. And, you know, this happens, it comes, and then this happens and it changes. And yeah. It is interesting. It's that because you know, someone said to me, well, how would you characterize yourself right now in terms of sobriety? And I went, well, I don't know. I got 23 years of not drinking. I don't know what it is. I don't really know. Like, I don't know. It just feels like you said, it just feels like a part of recovery. Mm-hmm.
And it all gets folded in.
Right.
And any judgments that I have, or the judgments that I have about it, or, you know, other people's judgments are their judgments. And my main thing is to be kind to myself and kind to others. And if I'm able to do that and notice all of these thoughts that are coming up, that I don't have to have grasping thoughts on top of regular, as if there's regular thought. There's only regular thoughts and grasping. By the way, just so you know, Lynn. Okay, write it down. The new novel, Regular Thoughts, Grasping Thoughts.
Some thoughts have a lot more grasping energy, though, that's for sure.
Which ones?
Some thoughts
have
more
definitely.
Energy of grasping, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
They get our attention in a different way.
Yeah. Like you got to be, I got to follow that one.
Yeah.
And that's another thought. They just keep one after, they just line up like dominoes.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, some are larger dominoes.
Yeah. So I'd like to follow up a little bit on this guilt and kindness. So you have a long time pattern of kindness to yourself. So was that shaken when you were starting to notice that there was guilt there? Were you being unkind to yourself? Were you judging yourself or anything like that going on?
Yeah, you know, again, I'm sure this is not new news to anyone who has gone through this or has any, but my lack of kindness starts with you. And it'll start going on you before I recognize I'm not being kind to myself.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I start seeing that I'm being unkind to others.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm being and I'm not having a lot of sympathy, empathy. I'm not having a lot of patience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And before I go, oh yeah, I'm not being kind to myself, because I'm not even, I can honestly say that I might be doing all of those things in the morning, but there are blind spots where I don't even recognize how unkind I'm being to myself. Even if I've done all of that stuff in the morning, there's these blind spots. And then I'll do something and I'll throw my shit on you or someone else. And I'll go, oh, why did they respond like that? I thought that I was being, I'm right. And then those are all, those are the breadcrumbs that I throw out, that come back. They all come back to right this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, when I, after I did that enough during that time, and started seeing that it was in fact my problem and no one else's problem and no one else's issue and no one else's this, that made it aided in making it shorter. Because if I would have gone the other way, this shit could have gone on. You and I wouldn't even be talking right now. Maybe it would have gone on, I think, probably much longer. But fortunately, having, having practices, a consistent practice, and having dabbled in many other practices over the years, those things have all sunk in, and, it's able to turn around, and I'm able to make that turning inward, and also to be able to notice that, wow, pretty damn lucky right now to be right here, and to have some gratitude. And that's another thing, gratitude, because there's not, as wonderful as those numb moments are, there's not a lot of gratitude going on. There's just numbness.
Numbness is not calm and peace and grounded, and no.
Yeah, at all. So, and all of those things that seem to be so important and issues that are still up in the air now don't have any of the, the claws coming out of them right now. They're dealable. They're there, and you just approach them. And sometimes, whatever you're doing, it works. Sometimes it's not working, and on to the next.
Right. So what you're describing is kind of that something came up. In this case, it started with physical pain in your body. And there was a bunch of other things that were going on too that didn't feel very manageable.
Right.
And then you had a solution. And so you did that for a while. But the whole time you were doing it, and I think this is really key, is that you weren't really hiding that from yourself.
Yeah.
So every day, at least during your practice, but also other times during the day, you were watching yourself do it. You were aware of what was going on.
Yeah. I was very aware of what what was. I was hyper aware of what was going into my body, and what amount I was using, because there was, there was that thing where there was something that would be too much. Even it's just dark chocolate, right? It's just a little dark chocolate, that's it. But even a little bit above a certain thing made me completely uncomfortable. And so there was definitely a governor that was happening, that was saying this, but not that but not that. So I don't know if you call, maybe that's just body. Maybe that's, some sort of, I don't know if you call it grace, or a discipline that comes out of some sort of grace or something. I don't even know what it is, but I'm glad it was there. My tolerance level was it was low, and
So you wanted some relief, but you didn't want oblivion.
Yeah.
Like earlier
I was pretty clear when it began. I wasn't as clear as when it would be over with.
Right.
but I was clear when I began what it was I felt I needed. And I wasn't, it wasn't even like that something said, you're not going to go beyond this because that feels horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, and so no other substances came in.
The real key here, I think, for me, as I'm listening to you talk about this, is that you never lost that awareness and observing of what it was you were doing, and that
Yeah.
you were noticing. You might not have been noticing, I'm disconnected from myself, I'm unkind to myself right now, but you were noticing, oh, why am I irritating that other person, or why? And so from there we can kind of follow the breadcrumbs back.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's this long-term willingness, I think, with practice, daily practice, that we get really used to ourselves. We can't do daily practice if we're judging ourselves every time we tune in. Eventually we're going to go, that's enough. I don't want to torture myself every day.
Yeah.
So
And
there's
acceptance
of some kind.
yeah. And what was remarkable to me was how deeply ingrained it is in me, this practice.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever practice it was, because it seemed like more than usual, something was taking my temperature. There was a doctor in the house.
Mm-hmm.
It was taking my temperature and saying, today we're doing this practice. We're doing this meditation. This is the combo of what you're going to do in order to stay well today. Even if you're going to do this, we're going to keep you well. And that was happening. It was like there were prescriptions that were coming in, or they were being written, and it was. So I felt like this was being taken care of. It was being taken care of, and and certainly there were things where I went beyond what I thought I would do. That I'd said, gosh, if someone gets high, they better not do this. That I did, and I went, oh God, I did. Oh, how about that? I did that. And that seemed okay to me. But if I said something to someone and said, oh, I did this, and they'd go, ooh, that's sketchy what you did there. And I went, yeah, it is sketchy, and I know that, and I'm not going to do that again. So there was constantly this pushing an edge on things, and nothing that would ever get you arrested. It's just the stuff that you just like I naturally don't do in my life, because it's been 23 years of like not doing certain things, and all of a sudden the doors swing open a bit and you go, ooh, okay, this, and then you realize you're not doing the picking, something else is doing some of the picking, and then there's something else in there that's going, yeah, let's pull that back a bit, let's so I don't know where we're going with this. I don't know where I'm going with this, other than that there felt like there was something that was guiding the whole thing, and there was something that was completely just like, whoa, what's going to go on today? But yeah, really fortunate to have practices, whatever they are. I guess I could do that thing where I say I can't encourage people more than to find a practice, even if it's one thing, even just one thing. I periodically I'll read these or hear podcasts of like these Navy SEALs, and the Navy SEALs are like, bam, they're up 4:15 in the morning, and like they've run 2 hours and done 300 sit-ups to the, and they've got a thing going on because they want to own that morning time and get that so that their headspace is in, their heads are in the right place. And that just makes such sense. It makes as much sense as like making your bed first thing in the morning, whatever it is. And I would have never thought that I was ever going to listen to any Navy SEAL about anything.
Okay.
And yet there's connections because they have practices. And
They
I,
do.
and I
They
find,
have to be clear,
yeah,
clear-minded, clear in their body. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. Mm.
And it just said whenever someone says to me, I've got a morning practice or I've got an evening practice that I do, I always sit up and take notice and go, oh, really? What is it? Oh, and how does that help? Have you found that that's helpful to you? How
Mhm.
has that helped? Have other people around you been affected by that? Do how has your life been affected? So I always listen to that. I just think that that's such a great step. And it's amazing to me how many um, people that I've met who are sober who have that and that who don't necessarily have that. That is something, you know, they have something else and they seem to be wanting something more, which is interesting to me. That wanting something more is always, I don't know, that's a brambly path. The thing of
Mhm.
wanting more.
You mean they want more
Uh,
like practice or something?
they could say, first thing in the morning, I hit my knees and I pray.
Mhm.
And then they'll hear what you did and go, oh gosh, I've tried meditation. I can't do it. I tried this. I said, but you just said you hit your knees in the morning and you pray.
Mhm.
That's you passed.
Mhm.
You passed the test. You're doing it.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just keep doing that, because how many times have people they're dropping practices left and right, always going to something else. And then the spiritual marketplace is so full of stuff and they're going, oh, that didn't work. I'm going to try this and that. But it's almost anything. You're given a mantra, you're given an inquiry, and you just stick with that no matter what. And you just see how that takes you and see where you are 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 5 days from now, and see what happens.
Mhm.
Because the most mundane things can sometimes be the most helpful.
Well, and my meditation teacher said you can drill thousands of wells that are each 5 feet deep and you'll never have water.
Right.
Just stay
Right.
with your practice and let it go deep,
Yeah.
and then you'll see the fruits of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I guess it's like I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was a great saint. He was a great saint. And
Mhm.
when he and supposedly when he became enlightened, or whatever they called it in India, it was then that he sought out teachers from other traditions and religions and did their practices to see if those practices could take him to the same spot. And he found they took him to the same spot. And I agree. I think that when you've been doing it a long time, you might then be able to pick up something else and say, oh, that's interesting, and see if that passes, in a way, passes the test of I don't know of what. No, I'm stuck.
Well, when you have a long history with practice, though, you are very familiar with, does it bring you closer into connection with yourself, or does it
Mm-hmm.
bring you out of connection with yourself? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a good test. So if
Yeah.
I'm trying a practice, maybe it's something that I didn't need at the beginning, but that would be very helpful now, a different kind of
Right.
breathing practice, or maybe I'm noticing I'm really judgmental about something and I want to work with that. And maybe it's something that's just going to be around for a little while, but is it something is connecting me? That's a good test, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or dissociating me, or,
Right. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And or if it's something that's taking me further into revelry of like, then that's not that it's that doesn't, but it's not necessarily something that may make sense for you.
mm-hmm. Well, and I find we have so many kind of ideas about what should work. Like, the idea is that it's good for us to be able to stay present with our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're talking about somebody who's full of trauma and fear and anxiety, staying present with that is not going to be helpful.
Right.
And if we have a lot of catastrophic thinking in our mind, we need to be kind of firm and not go down the rabbit hole of
Mm-hmm.
catastrophic thinking. So we need to be really monitoring this all the time. So mindfulness of our thoughts is okay, but not following thoughts into some kind of catastrophic compulsive pattern, because then the pattern gets stronger and stronger.
Right.
So we always have to be really wise about what we're doing, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, because in the midst of it, the in the midst of it, what what it's almost like when I was doing the during my blip, it's almost like there was the foundation had someone had slightly pushed the foundation this way, so it was a little bit rocky. So the meditations, sometimes those catastrophic thoughts, and I'm aware of the thoughts, and then there's that's a knife. That's a knife. Oh, that's an interesting knife. Wow, the knife's in my hand. Wow. Oh, I'm cutting, and all of a sudden, like I'm off on some sort of Jumanji tangent of some sort that I
Right.
did, and in it until you go, oh gosh, look at that. How about that? How did that happen? Whereas when I'm out of that, that's so much easier to see that thing beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that I was aware of when that was happening. Huh. Okay.
Well, and what you were doing during that time would definitely have an effect on your body, your energy, your mind, your thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason we do it, is because it has an effect on us. And then we're
Yeah.
noticing the things that we're not so happy about, those effects that we don't really want
Yeah.
or don't really need anymore or whatever. I think it's really interesting that you came to a stopping point, not by making a vow of stopping, but by just really mindfulness, noticing what was going on, doing some course corrections around, I don't want to go down there.
Mm-hmm.
And then just, noticing, okay, this guilt here, it wasn't here a few weeks ago. What's that all about? And then it just became something that you didn't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. The price was becoming too great,
Right. Yeah.
or I saw it as becoming great.
Right.
And yeah, and I remember that last. It's interesting. About maybe a week or so before it happened, I was listening to something, and it was almost like this situation. A guy who was going to be on a some sort of a podcast, and he canceled, and he canceled, and they wanted to know why he had canceled, and he said, "Oh, well, this happened," because then he came back 2 weeks later, and he said, "This is what happened, and this is what happened," and he was so brutally honest about what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, really? That's pretty cool that he's able to be present to all of that and to speak about it. And it's not stigma. There's no stigma around it. There's no guilt. He's talking about it from a very kind of cool point of view. And I think that was probably a week or so before I stopped, and so that really kind of went into the kind of the helpful bucket for me,
Mm-hmm.
and
So he
maybe
wasn't shaming himself for it.
no, yeah, he wasn't, because I think that those are also the little bugaboos that come up during that time. Also, is that how that you should be feeling this way, that you should be shaming yourself. And if you're not shaming yourself, there must be something wrong. And hearing him, I went, oh yeah, I'm not feeling a lot of that either.
Mm.
So just making a connection with him was really that was good. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure there will be people that make a connection with something inside of them because
Yeah.
of what you've been talking
I
about.
hope so. I hope so. It's not a. It's an either long or short road, and just have to keep somehow staying on it in some, even in a loose manner. And if you go off of it, knowing that it's, you can start again. That's the other thing. That's what a Zen teacher said to me. He said, every day and every moment, you're just starting again, starting again, starting again. Try it again.
Mm-hmm.
See what happens. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I feel like we're coming to an end.
I think we are.
Thank you.
Thank you
I'm
very
glad
much
we had a chance to do this again.
Yeah, me too.
And to go over that material, in a way that I feel safe sharing it with you and with everyone else, whoever tunes into this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Go to kilobicenter.com, Radical Recovery Summit, for access to the interviews. You can watch them free online, or you could purchase an all-access pass. kilobicenter.com.